Hi, this is Burr Stewart, and welcome to part 101 of my continuing series of operations videos. In this case, we have a potpourri of different operations that took place in my basement over the last couple of weeks, including, as you see there, an Erie Lackawanna run through with some RS3 engines, and we'll have a lot other excitement to come. This is downtown Seattle on the main level of the layout with the old spaghetti factory. And this Erie Lackawanna train is now coming through the main yard in Seattle's Interbay. The orange tank on the left is the Time Oil facility. Now our train is running through the Salmon Bay Bridge. The Great Northern called it Bridge Number 4. And past the Ballard Station. My friend Bob Stafford brought these two engines over. He's a big Erie Lackawanna fan, and he wanted to run them on a big layout because his layout's kind of under construction. Oh, and you hear the Squealers made by Iowa Scale Engineering that really add a lot of realism. They're set off by a motion detector, so if you stop the train over the detector, it stops squealing. Very nice. And he also brought over an Erie caboose to go with his Erie Lackawanna engines. We have a joke now that the Erie Lackawanna considered merging with the Burlington Northern in the early 70s. And that's why this train is here. They thought they would do a run through and see how it went. Of course, in truth, they wouldn't have used RS3's for a run-through, but never mind. We love RS3's, right? The Squid Bridge, of course. And we have a second squealer over here, as you can hear. Now the train's moving into the Bayside yard in Everett. Keep an eye on these diesels. You'll see them a little bit later in the video.
It's on the track.
Well, now we have Brian Elchlip's recent rebuilt DSL 535 switching up in the town of Opportunity.
Oops. Wrong track.
Which is way up high in my layout. It's an upper deck. Only I can see because I'm 6'5" and everybody else is shorter than me except for Magnus. And of course he's 6'8", but that's a whole nother story. You can see I haven't glued the track down yet, just temporarily tacked down. But we're trying a little switching. I want you to hear this engine, Tsunami decoder, the Alco engine. They're backing onto some passenger cars that we've stored up there. so we can do some test runs of a long passenger train. But first we have to get it out of the town of Opportunity.
Plug this in.
Yeah.
Button a couple
Plug it
times.
in and see if it then responds.
One of those curved pieces of flex track on the right there is going to end up becoming another main line up to a staging yard up in the ceiling, but I haven't built that yet. As you know, we're not going to go into that list of things I haven't built.
No, keep going forward. It's a reverse route. Oh, it's a reverse route. There we go. I'm sorry.
We made this upper deck out of a 1-inch thick foam core. It actually worked out really well.
Hey, Burr?
He's dead.
Okay. Wait. Did you just honk the horn?
Yeah, it works, but I can't get it
Oh,
over.
well, you got it's a different
Doesn't that sound great?
I don't know
Despite
how that-
all the chatter in the background.
Slick.
And then it's,
I think 732 was the number.
yes, it is 732. Because I'm looking at this, I'm hearing this engine roaring and the wheels are turning.
I don't know that changed.
We got a freight station and a passenger station here.
There's a computer involved. I didn't think of that.
Water tower. It looks like we have 2 water towers. I'd say this deck is just a storage area for equipment.
Still.
All right, well, back on the standard gauge, we have this classic scene, which you might have seen in my previous short, with the Empire Builder charging up towards Stevens Pass, while our Erie Lackawanna train is making another lap around the basement between Seattle and Everett. I just love those parallel train moves, don't you? I have another video that has some of this, and I'll post the link to it in the description below this video. Nice. And when I was taking this shot, I didn't realize we were about to have a special treat, which was that there was a simultaneous operation up on the narrow gauge. Wait for it. There it is. See that at the top? I think that's our passenger train coming down from Opportunity. See, look at that. We got 3 trains going at once. This is what I mean by much fun with trains, in case you wondered why I called my channel that. That was the much part. And this is the train part. The passenger train is now passing the town of Hope, which is a nice little switching area. Meanwhile, the Empire Builder has made it up to the steel trestle. You may recognize this from a short that I published on it a few weeks ago. It looks way better full length like this, though. This is a very skewed bridge, similar to one that exists on the road up towards Stevens Pass.
straps.
And now we've successfully turned our narrow gauge diesel on the turntable, and we're ready to bang! Ready to try hauling our passenger train up the hill and see how well this diesel does with it. I'm guessing he put a scale sound system speaker into that thing. It sounds really good.
I saw him on this passage. Oh, no, that was different. Go around as soon as the man gets here, you can stop.
One of the reasons I wanted to try dieselizing the narrow gauge was to pull a long passenger train like this. We'd have to double or triple head the steam engines to do this. Not that there's anything wrong with double or triple heading steam engines. We'll do videos about that later. That's Glacier Peak on the backdrop behind the trestle. And that's a different train moving on the lower level. This is the ruling grade on the track up to Opportunity. And the diesel is not having any trouble with it. You're seeing the first time we ever tried this, and it seems to have worked just fine. We had a little issue with one of the cars had a coupler height problem, but that has nothing to do with the diesel's pulling power. There's a family hiking on the side of the cliff there.
Looking for something to do, Dave?
No, I'm just rail fanning right now.
Oh, okay.
With all this action at Delta here.
Now, if you look down to the left, while we were doing this passenger run, another train was going around from Everett down to Seattle.
A wiggle, right? Is there a set of points there or something?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Whoa.
Now, a few minutes later, with a different camera, we had these four engines I mentioned before, pulling a different train from Interbay up to Everett.
The one thing I saw we did recently was build the...
This was filmed with my Sony Handycam, so you can hear the people talking a lot better, and it's a stereo soundtrack.
Okay, Sydney. I see. Yeah. The right.
Look up on the upper deck. There's our passenger special coming back down again.
Yes. I'm still building, so designing.
And Robin is testing out another British locomotive. I tell you, we do have much fun with trains here. Here's that shot again of the passenger special coming across the trestle.
That's the dollar.
And down below we have our diesels pulling that train. Here's another shot of the passenger special going downhill.
That's a license for it. Yeah.
With Robin's test locomotive. That would be an 00 scale British engine.
It's about 12 years in operations when I was a traffic manager or local manager on the operations side. But then I went to the headquarters in London and started doing long-term business planning and things. But then I went to London Underground and did long-term investment planning.
It's an interesting shot.
Is that okay?
That was fun. Then I came to this country and
Had it throttled up a little bit for you.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now these engines are taking what we call the illegal cutoff from Everett down a ramp to South Seattle. It doesn't make any sense in the real world, but on the model railroad, it allows us to have a continuous operation and run all the way around the basement without having to stop and turn trains around.
I think.
And then the turbocharger winds down.
Right. I'm not sure I didn't see some of these or something very similar to
Those
this.
are ubiquitous out there.
Are they?
The little fan here is running. I'm really happy with all the little.
My friend Andy brought over his Santa Fe 410-2. He hasn't weathered it yet, but he did put a new drive shaft in it so that it runs a little better than it was.
It goes down in the Black River Junction, I believe.
How about a horn? That's what we're talking about. Yep, that's what we're talking about. Looks like Robin was testing two different engines this day. Here we're in Mukilteo. You can hear a little bit of motor drive gear noise there. As usual, whenever a steam engine is running around on a diesel-era railroad, rail fans come out of the woodwork and start taking photographs, as you can see off on the right there. Well, we got this far, we might as well watch another steam engine, right? In this case, it's Brian Alchlip's Bachmann Frisco 2100. For those of you that aren't familiar with the nomenclature of steam engines, the first number, the 2, is the number of wheels in the leading truck. The 10 is the number of wheels in the driving part of the engine, and the 0 is the number of trailing trucks supporting the firebox. You might recognize this scene from a short video that I published a couple of weeks ago that's been very, very successful. The Frisco was merged into the Burlington Northern in 1980, so I guess it's plausible to run this locomotive then. So Brian likes to say that it's being restored by the fans of the Frisco, and they're running it around on the Burlington Northern system in the late 70s or 80s. And that brings us to the end of another Much Fun with Trains video. I hope you enjoyed it, and you'll watch the other videos on my channel, which are equally entertaining. And for now, this is Burr Stewart, wishing you to continue having much fun with trains. Bye now.